Chastise you.
Every month, without fail.
All right, to you young ladies that are opposite me, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
First order of business to approve the, first order of business. Purpose statement for the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital, maintenance, and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters during the November 6, 2012 election are accomplished with PPRTA funds. This committee reports directly to the Board of Directors. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, everybody votes today, whether you're an alternate or otherwise. Public comment for items not on the agenda. I don't think there's a public out there. There's all public employees.
Overwhelmed as usual.
All right, seeing none. Approval of the minutes from the September 6th meeting. They are in your packet.
Move approval as presented.
Second.
Who seconded? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, there was one abstention for absence. And now we have the best news of all.
Good afternoon. Is this on? Is this on?
I can hear you.
Okay.
fine.
Good afternoon. In July, we received $8.6 million compared to a budget of almost 7.7. So that's for the month of July, but we received those in September. And so that was $911,000 over the monthly budget, or 11.8%. And so far, we're $2,055,000 over the annual budget, or 3.8%. On the next page, the second page, compared to last year, we're ahead by $5,038,000, or 9.83%. And then the rest of these reports you see every month. Does anybody have any questions? It just puts it in financial statement format. And then the last pages compare the total project cost to the total project budget. Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Mike, you're up.
Afternoon, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. I got 4 items for you to review. First item we have is a construction contract for DRX to do replace some pipe and inlets on 21st Street in the kind of in the middle of the Bear Creek area. There's a couple of maps attached that show the location of that work. Next item, we have construction contract for the first phase of construction. Oh.
Yeah, Mike, on that, on your cover page, it shows it as being capital, maintenance, and construction. Capital and construction, or maintenance and construction, makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for all three. It may be something for you in-house. I have no objection to it. I mean,
Cole, do you know, are you guys using a little bit of both? So you're saying we got it marked as capital and maintenance?
It is, because it's part of our companion drainage funds, which are capital funds. So it's going to be capital funds plus maintenance funds to get that accomplished. Our companion drainage funds are a capital fund.
right.
Okay.
But if you're using joint funds, is that a problem for you, Bev? No. Okay.
We do that quite frequently. Okay. All right. Next item is a construction contract for Dwyer Earth Moving to start the first phase of the Centennial Extension, and that's extending it from Fillmore to Fontenaro. The first phase we're going to do is there's a piece missing right now that's north of Van Buren, so we're going to complete that. We want to open up that road so that there's some development potential going on there that we need to provide access so that they can start building that. And then the second phase will be built after the landowner cleans up the old dump that's there, and that's south of Van Buren. So that's a couple years off.
Question? Right here.
Mm-hmm.
Last statement, or last part of the statement, and completed by January 31st, 2018, for planned maintenance of the Mesa Treatment Plant, which is approximately 3/4 of a mile west-northwest of this project.
Yes, so there's some water line, utilities are going in. There's some water line that the utilities wants to put in there to get it, to connect it so they can get it connected to
But
water.
is that maintenance? And it's got nothing?
No, they'll pay to get that pipeline put in there, but they want it in place so that they can do some maintenance on the treatment plant.
Oh.
So we're working with them, but that water line, they'll pay for that water line.
Sorry, Scott?
Well, when that gets built, will either Van Buren or Mesa Valley be open to Centennial, or are you going to keep those barricaded off?
We made a commitment to keep it barricaded until the road is fully extended. Next item is a change order for Lucky Dog. We're doing some widening of 26th Street, and the final asphalt quantities were higher. I think they might have initially estimated them a little bit low. So that project is done, and this just finishes out the construction of it. And then the last item is another construction contract for bus shelter and bus stop improvements, is putting ramps and benches and shelters at various locations throughout the city. It's like three different transit routes. So I didn't really have a map to show you that because it's, like I said, it's kind of sporadic along those routes. And that's basically the RTA portion is grant match. I think that's all we have for
Any
now.
questions? To a recommendation for approval?
Would move approval as presented.
A motion to approve as submitted and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Unanimous.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Craig, I thought I saw Craig come in. I hollered at you. I didn't. Craig.
Good afternoon. Brian Vituli with the City of Colorado Springs,
I'm sorry.
Mountain Metropolitan Transit. I just assumed you wanted me up here.
I did. I thought I saw Craig come through the door, though. I didn't, obviously.
So I just wanted to present to you our monthly transit update. For our fixed route services, we saw just below a 2% decrease in fixed route ridership for August of this year as compared to August of 2016. For our ADA paratransit services, we saw about 11% increase in ridership over that same time period. And for our van pool services, we saw 6.7% decrease, again, over that same time period, August of this year as compared to August of 2016. A few project updates on Monday, October 2nd. We just implemented our fall service changes, and that included increasing frequency on Route 25, which operates from the Citadel Mall and goes north on North Academy Boulevard to the Voyager Parkway Transfer Center. So we increased frequency from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. So we're continuing our overlaying of the system with some high-frequency transit corridors. And we also implemented some on-time performance upgrades to routes 10 and 11 by adding one additional vehicle into the operation of routes 10 and 11, which operate south from the downtown terminal on South Nevada to Southgate Road before they branch off and converge again on at Pikes Peak Community College. So by adding one vehicle into the operation and extending the time it takes to get from the terminal to PPCC, we're able to keep those, both of those routes on time. We were suffering from some on-time performance issues, and we believe that they're working, but there's an awful lot of work still going on downtown on Nevada and some of the main roads that we use to get out of the terminal that we're doing well, but we think it will get better once some of that construction ends. So we're pleased with what we've seen so far. And then a week ago yesterday, City Council approved a resolution of support to adopt the steering committee's recommendation to the mayor to rank and prioritize those 3 final sites for our new downtown transit center. So that's another good step. We have, mayor support, city council support. A lot of the downtown stakeholders are supporting our movement to a new downtown transit center. And I've been back here a few times over the last year or so, but the site, the way that the site's prioritized, the top priority site, the one that we're going to move on, is at Colorado and Sawatch, in between Sierra Madre and Cacharis. So just a block and a half north of the new downtown, or the Olympic Museum site. The second ranked site is the site right across from the Pioneers Museum on the east side of Nevada Avenue, where the old Colorado Springs Health Partners building is, where the Colorado Springs Independent is. And then the third site are the 2 blocks of Pueblo Avenue. So we wanted to have these prioritized, just because knowing the history of this, and we've been trying to do this for 2 decades, and we're still where we are since 1976. If something would happen with that top-ranked site, we could then move on to the second site, and likewise, if we need to go to Pueblo Avenue as the third site, we could do that. But we're remaining optimistic, and we have a lot of support this time, so we hope it continues. So are there any questions about this report or the project updates? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And I'm going to stay here for the next item.
Same.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. I also wanted to present to you what we're looking to do for our 2018 service improvement plan. Right now, we're meeting with our stakeholders. I presented this to CTAB yesterday. We'll present to the RTA board next week. We have a Transit Passengers Advisory Committee. So we're meeting with our stakeholders this month and trying to get some feedback on what we're proposing to do for 2018, and then come back to you in December to kind of give you a report of the feedback that we got and to kind of tell you what our proposal is going to look like for 2018. So I included in your packet a 2-page summary of what we're looking to do, and if you don't have that, I have some extra copies here. But basically, our rationale for doing what we're doing, and you all know we have about $1.4 million in additional, revenue above budget dollars from the Pikes Peak RTA that we're looking to apply next year for service. And this little fact sheet here just gives you the highlights, what we're trying to do. We're trying to continue to improve our existing system by implementing a series of high-frequency routes. We're looking to improve frequency on some of our long-established routes with strong ridership levels. We're always looking to improve on-time performance because that benefits our existing customers, but also helps attract our the choice riders and new riders we're trying to get. Also improving our off-peak service, so that would be our weekday evening and our Saturday and Sunday service, because a lot of our customers are service-type employees, and most of those jobs do not operate on Monday through Friday, from 8 to 5, so they need service on those off-peak hours. And we're continuing coordination, a lot of good discussions going on with the northern hospitals, including Memorial and Children's Hospital, Penrose. There was a time, a month or so ago, several months ago, where Penrose St. Francis wasn't very interested in having transit service to their new facility up north. Now it's looking like they would like that, so we're continuing and starting discussions with them. And the Pikes Peak Community College Rampart campus, which is up north. It's the only PPCC campus that does not have transit service. And there's a very strong nursing program up there that feeds into some of those northern hospitals. So there's a lot of synergy that could be captured by involving all of those in discussions. So if you look at the alternatives, there are several items on here. This is what we're looking to do, and we have a document here that has all of these options with a red line. And the red line takes us all the way down to the bottom, right below Route 19. What we're hoping to do with these partnerships or the discussions with the northern hospitals and PPCC is to develop some partnerships that can help us fund some of the service to the northern areas. Our 2040 transit plan says let's fix what we have, let's improve what we have, our existing system before we expand outward. But we understand that there is a need to expand outward, and the northern hospitals is a great opportunity, but to try to develop some partnerships to serve them. So perhaps Mountain Metro can fund a base level of service. If the hospitals want better service, they could potentially, help subsidize those services. So looking at the list of alternatives here, I want to point out Route 27 on the top row and Route 1 on the bottom are both frequency upgrades from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. These are costly items, and as part of this outreach that we're doing now and the feedback that we hope to get some guidance on which way we go here. It's going to be an either or for Route 27 or Route 1. Route 27 is attractive because it continues our 15-minute transit corridor south on Academy Boulevard. So we would have all of North and South Academy Boulevard from Voyager Parkway Transfer Center in the north down to Pikes Peak Community College in the south. So that entire corridor would have 15-minute bus service. But Route 1 is also a very, very strong candidate because ridership levels are really heavy. And that goes from the downtown terminal into the southeast part of the city to Academy and Hancock, somewhere in that area. And it's kind of a meandering route. It's not a more direct route, but it passes some really high-density residential facilities, high-rise apartments, and that. So there's a lot of ridership on that route. So the feedback we're looking for is, do we do Route 27 and complete that transit corridor, or do we do Route 1? And a lot of these other improvements are frequency upgrades. They're adding Saturday service. They're adding Sunday service. Improving frequency on a couple Saturday routes. Again, Route 1 is really strong on Saturdays. We could perhaps increase that from 60 minutes to 30-minute frequency. Route 3 that operates out here on Colorado and Manitou Avenue runs every 60 minutes on Saturdays. It has strong ridership. It could benefit from 30-minute service. So this is what we're looking for. What we're also doing, there's a very large gap in our system between the Nevada corridor and Academy. What we're looking to do is establish a new route on Union from Boulder up to Academy Boulevard. So, and we have a 15-minute route that operates on Boulder and Platte, and we have 15-minute service on North Academy Boulevard. So this would fill in that gap between Nevada and Academy Boulevard. We get a lot of suggestions for service on Union. So that's something that Mountain Metro is going to do. And then further down the list, you'll see a new Union Boulevard weekday express route service from Academy up to Memorial Hospital. That's kind of the carrot that we're throwing in there to provide some basic level of service up to Memorial and Children's Hospital. If they say they don't just want express service, they want, full day service, and they're willing to help fund it, then, we could improve that level of service. But this is what Mountain Metro is prepared to do. And, PPCC's Rampart campus, we're hoping that continued discussions will help get some service up to there. Probably a shuttle operating from the Voyager Parkway Transfer Center, where we have a couple of our routes end to get to the Rampart campus of PPCC. So I know this is a lot to digest, and if you have any comments now or feedback, I can take that. But if you look at this in the coming weeks and you have any thoughts that you'd like to pass on to us, please feel free to send them my way. But I'll be back to you in December. Sure.
A quick question for you. The out in the east, along Tut Boulevard, we've seen a lot of growth. There's 2 new apartment complexes right on Tut, along with 2 55 and up senior communities that are being completed right now. How is the service, the power service running? I mean, how is it?
It's
Does it fit into these plans? Is kind of
not quite. It's still struggling. We've been somewhat disappointed in the ridership levels that we've seen in that. And when it was first started, it was an FTA job access reverse commute funded service, and it was designed to get people out to the Powers corridor where there are a lot of employment opportunities. And so it was a weekday only. 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. type of service.
30 or 60 minutes?
Every 60 minutes. And knowing that it was something that we didn't want to give up yet on, and there were good opportunities for ridership out there. A year or so ago, we added weekday evening service, and we added Saturday service. Really where it wasn't warranted. I mean, the ridership levels of the weekday service were really pretty low, but we still wanted to try to give it a shot in the arm to help boost the ridership. But it still hasn't really gotten to the levels that we wanted to.
Do you think we were a little premature? Because, those apartment complexes were just recently completed.
Yeah.
There's another one at the top of the hill that's just being completed now. So it seems to me that with usually, and this is a generalization, but usually when you have a lot of apartment complexes, you tend to have middle to lower income folks.
Right.
Whereas that originally had just been like single family dwellings. We're now starting to see vertical mixed use and on higher density kind of stuff. So have you guys projected that into the possible future? The concern I have obviously is that we get people who may get into these things and then not have access to the transportation because we take it away.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, we don't have any plans to take it away. I think what we would do first, and I wanted to say, in the summertime we did a system-wide assessment that looked at the performance of all of our routes by time of day, the on-time performance of the routes, pretty much a broad, very detailed look at how these routes are performing. And so a lot of the alternatives that were presented to you in this fact sheet here come from the recommendations of this assessment. But for something like Route 23 and some of the routes that are struggling, we don't certainly want to give up on them, but they could be, if they continue to flounder, they would be targeted for some increased marketing, going out to these high-density residential facilities or the assisted living facilities and trying to market them better. we know that, 60-minute service is not attractive, and that's something we would love to do if we had more money, is to take all of our 60-minute routes and give them a minimum of 30-minute service, because that's where it starts to be more attractive to take. So we're struggling with a 60-minute route that goes all the way from Austin Bluffs or Morning Sun, where it connects with other routes to the Citadel, and it's an incredibly long route. It takes 2 vehicles to run it every 60 minutes. Perhaps we can restructure it some way, split it up,
I think the marketing
better
aspect would probably be,
frequency. Yeah,
if people actually are a little bit more familiar.
right.
Because we're seeing a lot of new folks in that, in those communities.
Sure. Yeah. So we're in it for a while, and we want to try some things before, it would be targeted for discontinuation. But that would kind of be the progression: is if something is struggling, hit it with some extra marketing. If that doesn't work, look at restructuring it to make it work better. If that doesn't work, maybe then it would be a target for discontinuation and taking those funds and reallocating them to somewhere else in the system. But we're far from doing that, though. It's a good question.
Thanks, Brian.
Sure.
Tom?
Brian, do you have a PDF of your route system that you could send out to us that's current and proposed? Because reading a Route 1, Route 3 is,
Yeah.
that doesn't tell me anything about where it's
Absolutely.
physically at.
Sure.
And if you could send that to Rick or something, and then get it just sent out to us during the month.
Okay. Yeah. And we don't have a map prepared yet of what we're proposing, but most of this, with the exception of the new Union routes, are just upgrades to our existing system. But we can certainly send out the system map as it
Are
is
they
now.
color-coded to indicate whether it's a 30 or 60 or a 15-minute route?
It is not, but I could send a key along with it or something that distinguishes that. Sure.
Right.
Rick?
I wanted to add to Brian's, is there a good connectability with that result of that? Is it people who want to possibly use it? Is the connectability there for other parts of the city or to other parts of the workforce?
Yes, it starts at the Citadel Mall Transfer Center, where we have, probably half of our system connects there to Transfer Center. So there's a lot of connection opportunities there. And up at Morning Sun, it connects with a couple other routes up there. So there are transfer opportunities at both ends of the line, so people can get to it
So does it run
from our
north
system,
and south and
east and west.
south, or is it one direction?
It runs in both directions, so it goes, east from the Citadel, and then north on the Powers corridor, and then west out to Morning Sun.
So does it go north and south on Ted? Or just one
Yes,
direction?
yes. It's not a one-way loop. It
You're
doesn't.
given every opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. But it is a
The one, Brian mentioned, actually, the one piece of feedback that I get is that it's a 60-minute, and what happens is if you're connecting to one of these connections, then you also have an additional time on the next route that you have to connect with. So when Brian said that the ideal would be, a 30 or even 15 minutes, 15 is a long way off, but 30 minutes would allow them a better connectivity to the other areas of the city, which is, I think, what you were getting at.
yeah.
I have a question. Actually, two. First one, is there a contact link available to provide feedback? Or you just got to go, Metro Transit and,
I would just send it to me. Rick has my contact information. Yeah, send it to me. I'm the.
That's great.
Me or Craig, although I'd prefer me, because Craig has enough on his plate.
all right.
Yeah.
The second question, have you approached your city councilor from District 4, I think, who has a tremendous interest in the southeast part of the county, and the Independence Institute, and I sit in a meeting with her quite regularly.
Independence Center.
Independence Center, I'm sorry.
Courtney Stone.
Courtney. Yeah, Courtney. To get feedback from them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And many of them are, there's a lot of crossover between the CTAB and this group and our Transit Passengers Advisory Committee. So Courtney sits on that, and yeah, they are well aware of this, and we'll be discussing it with them. Yeah.
Brian, do you real-time track the location of your buses?
Yes. Yeah, we just, it was something we just kicked off a month or two ago. If you go to Google Maps and you click on the transit, there's a transit function on there. You can now.
It's available on my cell phone if I want to see where your bus is?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And how long until the next trip reaches the stop you're getting on at? Yes. Yep.
Big Brother's always there.
Google knows everything.
It's actually scary.
Is there any other questions?
All right. Yeah. So if anything comes up in the next several weeks, please contact me, and I'll see you. Well, I'll see you next month, but I'll see you in December to kind of give you an update on where we're going.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Mike, I assume. Yes.
Mike Chavez, City Engineering. First item we have is for your consideration of the line item transfer. We have a project on the RTA2, the Old Ranch Road interchange, and basically that was put on the ballot as a payback to CDOT. CDOT built that interchange a few years back, and so the plan was we would put $1.4 million every year, first few years of the RTA2, and pay them back somehow, sometime, because we had to get an IGA worked out with them. So back in 2015, we didn't have the IGA in place, and I needed some money for the TUT project, so I line item transferred that $1.4 million from Old Ranch to TUT, and never put it back in. And we did finally work out an agreement with CDOT this year, and they've billed us. So they want their 3 years of payment, and we were about ready to put a request in when Brenda called me. He says, Mike, we never put money back in there. So what I'm requesting is we're going to line item transfer $1.4 million out of the Pikes Peak project, because it's got a pretty good reserve in there, and we're not going to spend all that this year, even though we're starting construction. So we're going to transfer that out of Pikes Peak into Old Ranch, and then we'll make Pikes Peak whole next year at some time, or in 19 if we don't need money. So that's what all that is about.
I have a question, Mike.
Uh-huh.
Can you give us a little historical data? Was Old Ranch, and boy, I've heard about Old Ranch from the Highway Advisory Commission, former members from District 1, for a long time, long before PPRTA 2. Was the agreement, because at some point, Powers was taken over by CDOT anyway. So what historically, timing-wise, how did PPRTA get involved in paying them $8.5 million? I'm using round numbers.
Yeah. I'm not sure. The full details I can't remember, but basically the Powers it wasn't an intersection, was having a lot of fatalities.
Right.
And so it kind of became a priority, and I believe Powers is a state highway still, and it will, I think it's supposed to stay. Anyway, so we didn't have any way of building it, so there was an agreement worked out with CDOT. They said, hey, we can build it, we got money now, but, we need to get paid back. So that was why that project got on the RTA2 list. It was, kind of agreed to. And it was just mainly it was a priority because of the accident rates that were happening.
I'm not denying it needed to be done.
And I think what's that?
It's PPRTA 2.
Yes. Now, what your question was, where, and I think that that was the estimate that we agreed on.
No. Where did it become a state highway? Because it was originally partially owned by the city and partially by the county, and both of you took.
Oh,
that was years ago.
yeah.
Well, I don't remember when it was. I've been around for years.
Powers from Woodman south was city, and it went state, and we swapped academy. The north, I'm not too familiar with the history of the northern section of who built it and when, if it was city or.
The swap you're talking about took place around 2009, 2010.
Which is,
yeah,
was under one.
but from north Woodman north, it was already state. And
so-
then we swapped the South Academy and then
So-
certain parts.
If Woodman, Powers from Woodman North was already state, how did either the city or the PPRTA get involved in paying for that interchange?
I think part of it was the state didn't have money. It wasn't a priority for them. They had a lot of other priorities, but
They needed it for safety.
yeah. But from a safety point, so that was worked out.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah.
I wanted a history.
It was.
The biggest history is the fact that 3 entities, 3 years to work out an idea.
So
There were lawyers involved.
any questions on that one?
I move approval.
Oh, it does.
Second it.
Thank you.
Just to move the figures.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It's unanimous.
Could I ask a quick question?
Uh-huh.
And I'm getting back to the Tut Road thing. There's a section of Tut between Constitution and I think it's North Carefree that's experiencing a huge amount of growth right now. And I was wondering if the city, and it's falling apart on top of it. I was wondering if the city had any plans for capacity improvements and repairs on that section. 'Cause
That's south, Carefree and Constitution area?
Yeah, that section, it's a 2-lane section now, but north of that intersection becomes 4. And the problem that we're seeing is, in addition to the increase in the shopping center there at First and Main Town Center, we've also got the 2 senior centers, 55 and over communities, and the 2 brand-new apartment buildings at the corner of Carefree and Tut, right there.
As far as capacity improvements, I don't believe we have any plans on the books right now. I'm not sure whether that's on like the street division maintenance 2C. I'm not sure about that.
I want to have somebody take a look at it because it's getting really, really rough.
Okay.
Not just the condition of the road, but the capacity.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
As far as safety.
And I'll check.
Ins and outs, because there's at
It's-
that
it- yes.
intersection, it narrows down to allow access for that one apartment complex, and every time I go through there, you go from 2 lanes to 1 lane. You're supposed to be making a right-hand turn into the apartment complex, but that never happens. So we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah, I'll check with traffic and see if they may have, that might be on their radar for, intersection improvements or something, but I don't know of anything right now.
Okay.
Developer headings there.
Bingo.
All right. Item 7B.
Okay,
Mike?
next item we have is last month or before that, we approved the construction contract for the Pikes Peak reconstruction, which is one of our larger projects. One of the things that we didn't do is didn't bring a request to add that to the policy 12 exemption. And basically what that is the RTA limits for change orders are if you hit $100,000, once you hit $100,000 or 15% of a project, any change order after that has to come for CAC and board approval. What we've discovered way back when we started this RTA1 is some of these larger projects, that would just kind of halt the project because the $100,000 change order that's common, could happen. So what we did is we asked for an exemption for large projects, so it changes the limit. So what it is we can issue change orders up to $100,000 as needed, up to 10% of the project total. So once we hit 10%, we would need to start coming back for approval.
I was reading through the current, and there's a couple that have a aggregate? Can you tell me why?
We did that on a couple of and Woodman is one where we started with 5 and increased it to 10. And basically, we didn't have that much money in the budget, so we thought, well, you know, we didn't want to ask for more money than we actually had in the bank. I mean, so, but 10's kind of what we shoot for. Yeah. And typically, I think on large projects, Union, Union, Bluffs, all those, Proby, we usually we're around 3 to 5, maybe a couple hit 8% on change orders. So we've been able to contain costs, but also, they're large enough where from percentage we don't usually come near 10. So that's kind of the number we use. So it's just a mechanism that helps us to keep moving projects along.
Any questions? Do a motion for recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and seconded. Approve the recommendation for item number 8D, revising board policy number 12 is.
70.
Oh, I can't count either.
I was going to say 7D, Reb.
Well, I'm looking at Craig still coming through the door, so don't worry.
You put your glasses on.
I'm sorry, who's that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes unanimously, 14-0. Mike,
Then-
did you just want a seat there? And
Yeah, I was saying.
names?
So last item is our change order log, and this is one. This is not a change order, but it's actually a task order that was issued against the on-call contracts that we said we would report to you. And so this one is basically we're having Wilson do a structural check of the bridge that we're designing for Conwood Creek. That's just a kind of a standard procedure. You have an independent firm check somebody else's bridge just to make sure that they calculated it right and that it'll stand.
They actually built it.
Yeah, so that they designed it right. So that's just an informational item. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Jennifer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Committee, Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. Just one reporting item for you this month. We have on our Mark Shuffle project, South Project, we are continuing to close that project out, and we had a property that we acquired some property on it's a Colorado Interstate Gas, and they have a facility out there, a gas facility adjacent to the road. We had acquired property from them. Also, one of the things that, as we constructed the road, we impacted that property as well. And typically when that happens, we just include in our construction contract to make those modifications on those sites. So it may be a parking lot, it may be, in this case, it was some parking areas and some relocation of some of their facilities. Usually we just have our contractor who we hire for the road project to do that. But in this case, there's some work within their facility that requires certain certifications as far as, because it's high-pressure gas lines and some other facilities that's required by OSHA to be brownfield certified. So in any case, instead of doing the work ourselves, they've hired their own contractor to do that, and so we're reimbursing them for that work that they had to do this work as far as the impact for the road. So they did bid the project and get a low bid and included us in that entire process. So this was also approved by our Board of County Commissioners at their meeting on September 26th, and we're looking just as a reporting item under our property acquisition, because this usually would be handled under property acquisition. So just wanted to let you know that we were moving forward with that.
How close are we on Mark Shuffle South?
We had the ribbon cutting. I mean, the project's done. It's just this is a kind of a cleanup item. Yeah. We actually just did final acceptance of the project. There are a few punch items still left, and we still have to do monitoring of several of our of our permits that we have to hold with the state, our erosion permit. We also have some final utilities to wrap up as far as payment, and then also we are still working on some final property acquisition. We have the property, but we had possession and use. So we still have some things to wrap up. Usually these things take about a year or two, unfortunately, but that's what they are, so.
Thank you. Where's Rick? Kind of behind the column.
Okay, item 8A, report of recent board actions. This is information. It's in your packet. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions? Yes?
Rick, was there any concern with regard to the academy over Cottonwood Creek being replaced rather than the maintenance item that it was originally balloted for?
No. It was brought up, it was discussed, and no problems. Like, just as this body had no problems. Okay, good. Any other questions?
Oh, can you touch on the lawsuit real quick and where that stands?
Give me a second to reflect on what's top secret and what's not. As I'm trying to remember, I think I've brought up the new folks, but I'll take a minute for history. Walmart and Sam's sued PPRTA and DOR relative to the tax being applicable in the area that Fountain recently annexed and that Walmart and Sam's developed on South Academy North across the street from Pikes Peak Community College, the southern campus. In the district court in Denver, we, being Department of Revenue and Pikes Peak RTA, won. The judge found that we were correct in interpreting the state law on the RTA law. But Walmart and Sam's appealed, and so they've appealed, and our consulting attorney is working on that. The city of Fountain filed an amicus brief, which, as you're probably aware, is a friend of the court, but they're being a friend of Walmart and Sam's.
Because they want the money.
And they're arguing that the tax, PPRTA tax, shouldn't apply on the recently annexed City of Fountain property. And our attorney's preparing a response to the City of Fountain's filing. And that's the last I know. Okay. So are we ready for 8B?
Yes.
The ballot measure, as I put in the memo, you can see the historical items prior to the September 8 deadline. The brand new one was the late September deadline for pro and con statements to be submitted to me, because I'm the board designated DEO, designated election official. So I guess after my name I can add that, those initials. You've probably been a DEO. So I received one pro statement. The deadline was Friday the 22nd at 5 o'clock. So I had two con statements that came to me at 3 o'clock, by 3 o'clock on the 22nd. And they were 20 words over the 500-word maximum, because you can have a maximum of 500 in the aggregate of the pro statements, and 500 total of all the cons. So I had two by 3 o'clock, and then I had to go to so I was able to easily trim 20 words without harming the content. But then I went to a 3 o'clock meeting on the Executive Director Search Committee, and came out of that at 5:30, looked at my computer, and at 4:20, in came a third statement of 200 words. So between the three cons, I had to trim out 200 words. And I had to do that by Tuesday at 5. So, and I didn't know the rules, because I've not done this before. Cindy probably knows the rules. I probably should have emailed Cindy. So there's 2 rules that are written in state regs, but I learned from Liz Olson at the clerk and recorder's office there are about 6 unwritten rules. 6? Yeah, she is. So it took me about 5 or 6 tries over the 2 days of Monday and Tuesday to trim out the 200 words, hoping not to harm the content or rile the feathers of any of the 3 authors of the con statements. So I did that, finally, but it was a struggle. Particularly because each time I thought I was done and sent it to our attorney, or to Liz Olson at the clerk and recorder's office, they'd tell me about a new unwritten rule. I had to do it over again. Anyway, I did it, but it was tough.
Been there, done that.
So, and I finished that by Tuesday the 26th at 5 o'clock. So that's a nice little story for that item. That's information only. Do you have any questions? And no, I don't have any more fun stories.
One hopes you had a very good cocktail that night.
All right, item 8D, I'm sorry, 8C.
Okay,
And-
yes?
I interrupt. Just briefly, Cheryl, there's a question that you've got on the table that will be answered under item 10 on the agenda. It's not listed there, okay? I just want you to be aware of it.
Okay, 8C is my annual early notice to the folks. As you all well know, the CAC appointments were, in the original CAC bylaws approved by the board, need to be on a staggered term, so that's so everybody's not all up at the same time. So this is the roughly a third right in the middle of the page. So all of you who are here today that are on that list of 7 are duly notified that if you want to, when your December 31 deadline, or your term's up December 31, so if you want to be reappointed, for Scott, Ed, and Cindy, you need to go back to your appropriate bodies, CTAB, HAC, and Board of Trustees, and do your process to be reappointed.
Song and dance.
Yes. Now, on the at-larges and at-large alternates, that's through the board, our board of directors. So for Brian, Dr. Knoll, Jake, and David Chestnut, you'll need to send me something so I can forward to the board if you want to be reappointed. And since, so you're all duly notified, but I'll send an email to Dr. Knoll since he's not here. So I've put the deadlines in there for you to send me something, an email or letter or something, saying you want to be reappointed or not. Or you want to apply for one of the Manitou Springs or Green Mountain Falls open positions.
There is 1 in Green Mountain Falls and 2 in Manitou Springs right now.
Anyway, that's just information, so you are duly notified. I'll have this as information again next month. Any questions? Okay, 8D is the staff field review report. As a summary of my field drive-by confirmations of work being completed. That was reported by the member governments for the quarter. Any questions? Okay. Are we ready for number 9 and then 10?
Yes.
Number 9, any agenda topics for next month? Okay, number 10, Bethany, if you can pull up that map, please. And Bev, can you knock down the lights of the left side at least? So, last month, Dr. Knoll asked for a map of the metro area with the major roadways marked, highlighted, and so the PPACG staff got this to me, and I forwarded it out to the CAC. And CAC member Cheryl Everett had a couple of questions, one about Highway 83 and one about State Highway 105. And so that, one of those goes to Mike, one of those goes to Jennifer. So, Cheryl?
Those two were just examples.
Oh, okay.
US 24 or State Highway 24. Through Colorado Springs, it's Platte Avenue. Is that city maintained or is that state, still a state highway and they do maintenance? I mean, there are things like that that all go through this that I'm not sure of.
Probably, at least in the city limits, get something a little more detail,
Yeah.
show that. And then,
You know, 83 is the same.
yeah, 83 city from
Yeah.
Academy North.
And 105 was changed over too, so this map shows
Yeah.
it as being State Highway 105, but part of it is county now, so just, there's no demarcation of what is, I mean, I think that's Dr. Null's confusion.
Who's responsible for maintaining it?
Yeah.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. On 105, the county owns and maintain, well, we maintain. We're still in the process of transferring the right-of-way, but we essentially, for all intents and purposes, own and maintain Highway 105 from just near Jackson Creek Parkway all the way out to State Highway 83. So I think what CDOT actually has on their website the ability to go and look at those. I think just what I would say generally is that the state highways are generally owned and maintained by CDOT, whether they're in a municipality or not. So a good example is State Highway 24. If you look at that, it goes out in through Calhan. It goes through El Paso County. It goes through City of Colorado Springs. But generally, State Highway 24 is a CDOT owned and maintained road.
So this map is accurate that 24 is owned and maintained throughout by CDOT.
No, it doesn't.
Maintain plat from Powers or somewhere.
West, yeah, I think so.
But the things that are designated as Highway 24, I mean, Platte west of Powers is not designated as a state highway.
It jogs.
Well, it didn't drop down Powers now to.
Yeah. But that portion,
Is a business route, is it not?
yeah, but Platte is also on it's designated as State Highway 24 from Powers out, and that is a state-owned and maintained highway in that portion. So those areas where they're designated. But you also need to understand that we also have agreements on things as far as maintenance. So there may be signals that, you know, are within a state right-of-way that are maintained by the city or county. And that's true in several different locations. So we do our best to make, I mean, the bottom line is that for the most part, people don't care where they're driving on a roadway. Yeah. But at that point, you know, then we work it out as far as the jurisdiction. So a good example is an intersection, you know, Mesa Ridge Parkway and Powers Boulevard. That is an intersection of a state highway and a county road. So even though Powers is a state highway, our county road intersects that intersection. And so we have to coordinate together on those roadways. So it's not always clear, you're right. But for the most part, the traveling public doesn't care. They want their highways, whether they're state, local, or federal, to be maintained, right? So.
You know, and it's too bad Dr. Null wasn't here here because he was quite confused, at least it appeared to me, he was quite confused about why are we working on Academy that belongs to the state, and it obviously doesn't anymore, so.
That was transferred years ago.
Well, if anybody ever has any questions in regards to ownership and maintenance, please let us know. We'll make sure that if there's a question, we'll be happy to answer it. Some of the roads that we have in the county are half owned by county and half owned by the city, so it's not always clear. But we do our best.
I can put a little clarification just based on her history. Kathleen says that a lot of her traffic signals, and I think Jennifer's referred to it as well, US 24 out east, going through Falcon has a traffic light. Well, it's got 2 or 3 out there. I think the city takes care of them, or does the county have a facility, people? Just curious.
Those are CDOT maintained out there.
But do they actually do it, or do they let the city's people? I think the city, they do it? Okay, I just,
Falcon isn't incorporated, so they're not a city.
no, but I thought CDOT might employ city employees.
No,
Traffic sig-
The city does have a contract with CDOT to maintain some of the signals. Those ones out in Falcon are not a part of that contract, and neither is the one at Mark Scheffel. At some point in the future, that may be a consideration. But at this point, the one it doesn't really go past Mark Scheffel as far as those signal maintenance. So everything on 24 past from Mark Scheffel on are, as far as the signals, are maintained by CDOT themselves.
Okay.
Honestly, even in Calhoun, we have a CDOT shop there in Calhoun, so they work together. But CDOT does maintain that Highway 24. But if there's something on the side, or they were working on some drainage, they get with our guys and do it together. Works really good.
now, my
If it ain't
question
broke,
stem
don't
from
fix
this
it.
map.
And that map isn't gonna tell you what you want. You wanna know.
I didn't want to know it.
State-
Dr. Melly
Yeah.
wanted to say,
Yeah.
seeking clarification.
I don't think you'll ever answer it anyway. Thank you, Jennifer.
All right.
Just trying to find. Tom?
Could I go back to item 9 for just a moment?
Yes?
Its topics for next month. Would it be possible to extend an invitation to Karen Rowe, the District 2 CDOT leader, to come in and talk about I-25? Because within a couple of days of that, we hope to have dollars committed to that project. And I had a good hour-long discussion with her last week, and she's interested in getting connected more with PPRTA. And I think she could probably give some good clarification. There's a lot of things that are going to happen here, be rolled out in the next 30 days on that. And if you don't get a chance to go to the next meeting they're going to have, this would be a good opportunity to come in and tell us what's going on.
This is Karen Rowe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rick?
Has someone already invited her, or are you?
No, she said she wants to come and just sort of sit in the gallery, and I'm thinking, at this point, it might be good to just invite her to come in and give a presentation of what they're going to be doing.
Sure.
Because they're ready to move forward.
Okay.
I just wish it had been this month.
I can make the invitation.
Any other subjects?
I was just gonna ask on that earlier, this roundabout, we have on here on the grid, is it really $2,326,000? There on the street.
What are you referring to?
At Meridian?
This one, roundabout on Meridian.
What's he looking at?
You do drainage and everything.
No, I'm serious. He's looking at it.
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. We, El Paso County, are currently designing that roundabout. That cost estimate is also not just construction, but also based upon design work, property acquisition, also oversight of the project. I'm just hoping that dollar amount is going to be enough.
Whoa,
Property value is going up out there.
I'm gonna find a use,
So we are designing it in-house to try to reduce costs. There are some things that we cannot do in-house. We're not experts at a lighting design, so we will contract that out. We do have to do property acquisition. Most of those properties adjacent to that roundabout are commercial properties, so that drives the price up, so.
Ireland has some great roundabouts.
And it's for
Pardon?
people to-
Ireland has great roundabouts.
Well, we have a great roundabout that was funded and constructed with PPRTA funds at the Baptist West project, so.
Rick, I'd like to ask a question. Where did you get that information? Was it in today's packet and I missed it?
it was in the, projects in El Paso County.
Oh, okay. Rick?
I just want to give you an update on the executive director search process for the PPACG executive director. I'll go back a little, well, the first time around in the advertising process where we just advertised nationwide via our staff advertising, we got 22 candidates. The search committee of the PPACG, which contains some PPACG board members and some staff members and some outside folks, decided it'd be good to try to get more candidates. So the process that was selected was to hire an executive search firm. The search firm was selected. It's the Mercer Group out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Mr. Mercer has at least 4 decades of experience in doing this. He was able to do his advertising nationwide and selected targeting phone call, and he added 110 candidates to the list, so we had over 130 from the original 20-something. Then, according to the contract, he was to trim that down, from 130-something down to 21 semifinalists, which he did, and sent those 21 to the committee, the search committee. The committee then reviewed those for a week and met and reduced the 21 semifinalists to 8. Then gave those 8 back to the search firm consultant to do his magic, which includes in-depth interviews with the candidates, interviews with the candidates' references, and background checks. So the next step is that the consultant is supposed to trim the 8 semifinalists to 5, and then the committee will personally interview the 5. We will fly them in from wherever to interview 5 semifinalists, with the committee to recommend 2 or 3 finalists to the board of directors for their open session interviews on November 8 at a regular PPACG board meeting in here on November 8, and to hopefully decide on the spot to make an offer to their preferred finalist. Yes.
That was my question.
In the group of 8, there's one from in-state, but not in-county.
Of course. Probably Denver, right?
No.
Oh, thank God.
Will the search committee have a recommendation? Or are they just?
Yes, the anticipation, although I don't control the search committee, but I'm anticipating that the search committee will have a prioritized recommendation of the top 2 or 3.
Other than the one from Colorado, are there any others from, like, the middle of the country, non-coastal? I'm just tired of mercenaries coming from the coast.
Doesn't matter.
I can't remember. I remember Rhode Island, and I remember California. I remember.
Good Lord, no.
I remember in Atlanta.
Oh, man.
So I haven't focused on the geography, sorry, for my memory.
Okay.
California kids.
I was gonna say, the coasts do not understand our area.
Rick, that hopefully that you added,
Yes, yes, you can read into that.
thank you.
Come to the meeting on the 8th if you care.
The problem is there's an election the day before, so I may not be done.
All right, let's move to adjourn.
Any questions?
Is there anything else anybody wants to say quick?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourned.
Still have your lunch down?
That's scary.
Please borrow my pen.
Just to make notes, I'd already put mine away.
Oh,
I haven't even signed in, so I don't have to. I'm going to just. Cindy, thank you. It was really fun to see you.
yeah, it was nice to see you.
I was.
No, it's a hell of a trip. Trust me. I'm only coming from the east side of town. It's a pain in the rear. No, it's fine.
Young lady,
It's just good to see you.
looking at you, and I looked out the door, and I could have sworn I saw Craig. I'd already seen Brian come in with his sidekick, and I still just.
Yeah,